Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar this afternoon. I'm just going to leave it another little minute to make sure we get everybody registered okay and logged on. So yeah, we'll kick off in a couple of minutes. Okay, all right, well, we've got quite a good number of people joined now, so I'm sure we'll get a couple more trickle in, but I'll get started now. So yeah, thank you to everybody for joining us today. Today we're going to be talking about working like a pro and how we can maximize remote worker productivity. So just to give you a quick introduction to us at Kensington. Kensington is a PC accessories business products manufacturer. We're most famous probably for our laptop security locks. Been in that market for over 35 years, but we have a very wide range of products and solutions that covers very many different product categories and solution areas. One of those solution areas that we're going to talk to you about today is productivity. So without further ado, I'll kick off the presentation. So just some further introductions to who's going to be talking today. My name's Rory Morgan. I head up the marketing team for Kensington in Europe. And with me, hopefully you can see him on camera, is James Jaffrey, who is one of our product managers in Kensington Europe. James is responsible for the productivity product portfolio. Okay, so in terms of an agenda, what we're going to cover through today, we're going to start off talking about a new landscape of working, and within that there's some stats that we're going to share. We did a study that we'll share some information about just late last year, and we've written up a report that we'll talk about. Then at that point I'll hand over to James, and he'll talk about investing in productivity and how to get the best out of your remote workers. And then towards the end, we'll get into a work from home productivity checklist, which gives some very quick steps to what organizations can do to make sure their remote workers are being productive. And then at the end, we'll do a little quick summary and open up for a Q&A. So please do submit some questions. There's an area in there where you can, in the GoTo platform, where you're able to submit questions. Please feel free to put some in there, or if not, we can open it up at the end for some verbal Q&As. Okay. So as I said, the next part of the presentation includes some data from a Kensington study that we conducted and we've written up. The study is called "Do Your Homework: Key Strategies for a Comfortable, Productive, Cyber Secure Distributed Workforce." So as I said, three of our main sort of solution areas are productivity. That's the one we're going to talk about today. But as part of this report, we addressed other areas such as data protection, cybersecurity, and comfort, and physical well-being, as well in the home workspace. So yeah, without further ado, we'll get straight into the productivity section. So last year, obviously there was a massive global shift in the way we worked. Back when we did our survey at the back end of last year, 70% of our respondents said that more than half of their organisation's workforce was working remotely. And this survey covered many different companies of different sizes, different industries, etc. So we covered public sector, private sector, manufacturing, financial services, many different areas, and the overwhelming finding was that pretty much everybody was working from home. 40% of our respondents said that more than 3/4 of their workforce was remote, and so it's clear that this is something that was happening to many people, and is likely to be a reality for the foreseeable future. So what does that sudden shift to remote work mean? So before lockdown, before the COVID pandemic, we were used to going into the office, working alongside our colleagues at the office, and we were used to having either a dedicated workstation or a hot desking setup that had decent equipment for us to use. So, a proper office chair, a proper office desk. In most occasions, there'd be at least one extra display screen. In some cases, multiple. And we were very used to having access to everything we needed to conduct our job. If we look back at what happened when we did that sudden shift, many people were working from home with just a laptop, and myself and James, we're still in our home office, and I'm sure most of you on the call are as well. It is a reality for everybody at the moment that we're working in our home offices, which obviously aren't designed for work, and are not conducive to being productive all day. So there's a few things that can be done about that, obviously, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail later. Okay, so when we asked about how prepared organisations were, 55.3% of survey respondents said that they made sure that they prioritised productivity as the main area of where to offer the most support for effective remote working. 42% of the respondents said that they reported an improvement in productivity through remote working. And when we asked why that was, or if they could give any examples, there was some really interesting sort of comments that came back from our survey. So one of them was that there was less distractions. So I'm here in my spare bedroom in my apartment. I've got my door blocked off. There's nobody around me. Back in the office, I don't have an office. We sit in a very open plan space, and there's lots of noises, distractions, coffee machines, people walking past, etc. So I definitely found that I had less distractions when I was here. But that is quite key if you have a set space for work. So I'm lucky enough to have a spare bedroom where I can set up my desk. There's lots of people that don't, and working in living rooms or in kitchens or whatever. Sometimes means that there are in fact more distractions. People working more flexible hours, so time that perhaps you may have spent commuting a year or two ago now meant that you could wake up at the same time, get online earlier, have a really productive couple of hours before people start coming online, and you start having calls and discussions with your colleagues. Again, no travel time was a big one. There was many respondents that said this was a key perk of working from home, and how people improved their productivity. And an interesting one from a sort of a mental well-being point of view. Some of our respondents was reporting that there was a better work-life balance amongst their colleagues. So they were able to employees were able to go and pick up their children from school, or spend more time with them in the evenings rather than spending their time traveling and coming back to the house from work. So all of this shows that just working from home doesn't mean that you can't get the best out of your people. If you have a good setup and a good regime, then you can be productive from home. However, there is a flip side to that, and there were people in our respondent set that came back and said that they didn't have a good experience with productivity. So over half of the people who responded said that there was a reduction or a lack of improvement of productivity due to remote working. And when we dig into the reasons why, there's responses like it's more difficult to work effectively with a team of people. If you're used to working in a very collaborative environment, it's a little bit harder to do that when you're based at home. Again, there were some people that said that they didn't have the proper equipment. So they weren't kitting themselves out for productivity at home. So they found that task speed and the amount of work people were getting through actually reduced. There was reports of lack of communication, and this is all probably quite obvious that this was going to happen in a massive upset of our normal working lives. But it's very important to make sure that we are communicating with our remote teams. And then there were the opposite side to what I said earlier. There were lots of distractions caused by the home environment. I'm sure we've all been on a video call or a meeting where somebody's cats walk past the camera, or there's been a knock at the door from a delivery driver, or children coming in the background, etc. So working from home does come with its distractions as well. there was people responding saying that that their teams had a reduction in the focus on their well-being, and this predominantly was physical well-being. So people were finding that their spaces were uncomfortable or not right for them the way they wanted to work. And another interesting one that came back was that management styles weren't adapting to the new environment. So line managers were used to managing their teams in a certain way, and perhaps they weren't quick enough to adapt to how you manage a remote team. Okay, so one of the big findings we got from our audience was that laptops, they're good for getting by, but not necessarily for getting the job done properly. So the way I like to think of it is that you can survive with a laptop, but you're certainly not thriving with a laptop. So just using your laptop alone has a negative impact on things like task speed, accuracy of work. So if you imagine you're sort of hunched over just a laptop with an integrated keyboard and mouse, as opposed to having two screens in front of you like I do here with a separate mouse and keyboard, you have more screen real estate to see what's going on your screen. You can have multiple windows open, and you have a full-size keyboard with a separate mouse that allows you to get things done quicker. And you may not think that it makes big changes, but all of these small, tiny productivity losses over a whole day amount to a large chunk of time that you could be spending better. 62% of remote workers wanted their employers to provide them with better technology. This is from a study that was done a couple of years ago now, but I'm sure that that if we were to redo that study now, then we'd have more people saying that they needed better equipment, especially in the home office. Okay, so the other really important factor to consider when you're thinking about productivity is the home discomforts. So the impact of ergonomics or lack of ergonomics on your productivity. So in the office, when we all worked in the office, ergonomics had become central to a strong workplace wellness program. There's statistics out there that show that 91% of employees that work for businesses that have these workplace wellness programs, they report feeling motivated to do their best, and they feel good about where they work and the jobs that they're doing. But if you're working from a makeshift home workstation and it's not optimized for comfort and support like a normal office environment would, then it's going to have negative impacts on your physical but also your mental well-being. Unergonomic working environments result in time and money lost for organizations. So some more stats for you here. Aches and pains cause 24% of stress-related absences, and these are things that can be avoided by setting yourself up properly. 2 million workers a year suffer repetitive strain injury, and 600,000 of those take time off for treatment. And those 600,000 people that are taking time off for treatment, that's sick days, that's days spent visiting doctors or hospitals or whatever, and those are days that are avoidable, and people don't need to be getting into a position where they feel injured or where they have a negative impact on their physical health. And then there was another study done by Lenovo in the midst of the pandemic last year, in July last year, and this was all done around remote worker health, and they found that remote workers were taking a hit when it comes to physical well-being at home. So there's some big stats on here. So 32% of the people that Lenovo surveyed found that they said they had upper or lower back pain. 28% said that they noted worsening posture from working from home. 27% said they had an increase in neck pain, and 22% reported more headaches. And the headaches were linked to spending more time in front of your screens. Being exposed to more and more blue light, it has very negative effects on your sleep cycles, your ocular health in your eyes. So it has really big impacts. And last year, over the course of last year, if you think back to how that was different to how you would have worked in the office, you would have had lots of face-to-face meetings where you weren't staring at a screen all day, and that gives your eyes a bit of a break. Whereas now every single meeting we have is on a screen. So we're staring at screens more. And then in the midst of all of the national lockdowns, where we were being advised to not go outside, the first thing that most people were doing when they finished their workday is turning their laptop or their monitor screen off and going to another screen in their living room to watch television. So constantly being exposed to blue light is really harmful to our mental and our physical health. Okay, so that's sort of a background on the context of what's happened over the past year, and some statistics about productivity and negative impacts and some positive impacts. I'm going to now hand over to James, and he's going to talk to you about investing in productivity and how to get your best out of your remote workers. So James, take it away.
Thank you, Rory. I hope you can all hear me. As Rory mentioned earlier, my name is James Jeffrey. I'm a product manager for Kensington here in Europe and the Middle East and Africa. I'm going to run through a few slides now to show how investing in productivity really will help get the most out of your remote workers, both in terms of productivity on the work side, as well as their well-being and mental health. So one of the key areas of improving productivity for anyone, as you'll all understand, is bringing in and having additional monitors and accessories to help that productivity while working, and bringing that desktop experience in the office and back to the home. And quite a core big statistic here is just by having an additional second screen or monitor improves productivity by as much as 42%. Rory mentioned earlier, by having the ability to have different applications open, different documents, you can work quickly and more seamlessly rather than just focused around one laptop screen. Also, it's important that employees, have that mental, and healthy wellness while they work. It's good that organisations, need to make sure their employees are focused on this as well. And things that we say that you remind your employees to do is, take time out of your day to move around, stretch. Sometimes we're stuck on these team calls for 2 or 3 hours continuously, where we're not moving anywhere from our desks. We're not going to a coffee machine while having a face-to-face meeting or chit chat with someone in the office. So it's important, that the people do move while they're working, stretches, as they're going along, to be comfortable. Not only that, for some of us working, in kitchens or areas, it's not always easy. So, making sure that, the employees have a nice, comfortable space to work. The temperature's okay. They've got natural lights. They've got some windows around them to help with glare on screen and, feel more comfortable while they work. Some of the other things that organisations are doing is introducing remote physical fitness programs. So perhaps virtual yoga and online fitness sessions to help keeping people active and doing a lot more. I partake in a walking meeting every Friday. So this is perhaps something that you can introduce in order to get people away from their screens. You can have discussions with senior line leaders and other teams on a phone call. So having that time away from the screen is really important. So by paying attention to that, and forcing your employees to do things like that will only help mentally and physically. And finally, try and encourage people to have a virtual commute. Can they take the children to school before they start work? Having a 10-15 minute walk in the fresh air before they start their day, and when they finish, maybe even going for a walk at lunchtime and listening to a podcast, for example, just breaks up the day and keeps them away from their screen. What we like to do, from a point of view as well as that, in order to be productive, they need to have the right equipment where we work. So we need to encourage and allow employees to build a setup that they enjoy working in, something that replicates what they had in the office, so they feel comfortable, completing the tasks they do on a day-to-day basis. Have the organisations and you enabled your teams to purchase products. Have they got a basket within the organisation where they can go and purchase, some furniture, laptop risers, keyboards, mice, some of the peripherals that Rory mentioned earlier, that will allow us to complete our tasks more effectively, efficiently and quickly, our accuracy work. And it makes their home office more familiar to what they would have in the office, and therefore it does make it more enjoyable and certainly more productive throughout the day while they work. part of the equipment that we offer, and how we can support that well-being as well, is by venturing into supporting ergonomic products. So it's okay by having keyboards and mice to improve productivity, but thinking about that employer and their health and their well-being. As Roy mentioned some statistics earlier regarding RSI and injuries, and people taking sick leave while they're recovering from aches and pains. Presenting and giving your employees access to ergonomic equipment that will help overcome that, make them more comfortable while they work. Again, enhancing that productivity. One of the systems that Kensington provides and offers is the SmartFit. It's a patented system that allows employees to achieve an ergonomic workstation while we're working from home. Desk assessments are not easy to achieve. It's not easy for facilities to come and evaluate where you are sat. So the SmartFit system is a 3-step process that will allow you to do that effectively. One of the biggest challenges, as I'm sure you're all aware, is staying connected. Since we've all been working from home, the pressure on our bandwidth from our broadband and internet providers has suddenly been exhausted. You've got probably family watching smart televisions, using tablets, and or staying connected via using local area networks or the Wi-Fi. It's important that we stay connected as we work to achieve tasks, stay productive. We're not in and out of connection, so we're losing access to designated folders or websites, for example. So it's important that we check on our employees regularly to ensure that they've got connectivity. It's also important to ensure that they've got the right equipment. So if you're using video conferencing applications such as Teams, GoToWebinars as examples, have the employees got communication tools in order to use these effectively? And can we create and maintain ways to socialize virtually? Is it worth having a quiz or something more fun on a Friday to break up that day, make it more fun for your employees while we're trying to stay connected and communicate with each other in such a virtual way? Statistic there of 17% of remote workers saying communication and collaboration is the biggest problem they face. I'm sure you're all aware it's not easy to book meetings with colleagues. Their diaries are quite full, because the only way we can do it is by organising team events or collaboration through different conference providers. So finding that time is not easy. We want to get things done quickly. It's not like popping to someone's desk who's sat next to you and just to cover something in 5 minutes. We're now having to spend time to book appointments with our colleagues in order to do that. So don't get bogged down by all this excessive video calling and meetings. It's important not to do this often, so us as employees can actually carry on and do our day-to-day tasks at the same time. And one of the bullet points, as you can see there, is large organisations such as HSBC, the Citigroup are introducing Zoom free Fridays as an example. So can we do something with our employees and introduce a day where we don't connect, using these platforms to have that break? I think then it's also important as well that we think about how we can bring the desktop experience to the home office. What will allow us to connect our peripherals in order to be productive and effective? One of the product ranges that Kensington offers is docking stations. Why and how is that important to everyone is by giving access to employees to connect their peripherals that will allow them to achieve their tasks and work productively. By being able to connect to an additional monitor or 2 monitors to see and work on more applications, connecting to keyboards, mice, etc., that will allow us to be faster at the work we do. And we have a range of mobile docking stations and that will allow the flexibility for employees that are commuting to and from the office, that they can take with them and connect to 1 or 2 devices. And we also have fixed desktop docks that you'd probably be more familiar with in the office space, but for those working from 2 monitors and with lots of peripherals, they're also suitable and applicable for the home environment. One of the tools that Kensington offer is a dock selector, and what this does is allow you to find the perfect docking station for the hardware you use and for what you want to achieve from it. So rather than having to look through catalogues and worrying about what you might use, you can go online, use our dock selector, put in the hardware you're using, and it will spit out and come up with a couple of solutions that will be ideal for your scenarios and what you need. Not only do the docking stations we provide overcome all those challenges and being able to connect to peripherals, one of the challenges that users and organisations face is having a mixed estate of hardware. One of the great things that Kensington provides is hybrid docking stations, so we get rid of that complexity and compatibility issues that people will face. We have products that will connect to a variety of technologies, so whether that's through Thunderbolt 3 and USB-C based products, or USB-C and USB-A. So we have a full range of flexibility in terms of the connectivity type that you can use on those docking stations, as well as working with different brands of laptop providers. So it doesn't matter if you're using a Dell, HP, or Lenovo laptop, for example, the docking stations will connect to all of those. So it gets rid of that complexity regarding your estate. Now, focusing on home office, thinking about how we are all working now, some of the products in the Kensington portfolio that certainly enhance productivity and will support you as they do me, that I've got here on my desktop, is a USB-C to Ethernet adapter. So having adapters that will allow us to have regular local area network connections. So we've got a secure connection there for internet, so we're not dropping out of Wi-Fi as you move in different locations of your house. If your router's down in your living room, you're set up at the very tops of a loft space that you've converted, the signal can be weak. So having adapters to allow that Ethernet connection supports that reliable internet connection you're after. And then we have our mobile docks and desktop docking stations that will allow you to connect to different monitors, allow you to connect to different peripherals such as your mice and keyboards, and those products are suited depending on the user and the hybrid working place they're in. If they need something for the home office as a fixed solution, then you're focusing on the two products on the right hand side, the larger docking stations, 4800 and 4700, and the mobile dock if you're commuting back into work, which we'll start seeing soon, working from maybe an office for a couple of days, in the home office for the other few days. Having a mobile dock will allow you to connect to those peripherals in the office and at home, and it's easily to take with you while you work. So a variety of products there that do get in touch with us over that we can go through in more detail. On from productivity, one of the things we want to focus on is working well, feel well wherever you are. It's easy for us to consider the products that are available to us, but think about those ergonomic upgrades that will certainly make a difference to the end user. Thinking about the input products that we use today, using ergonomic mice and keyboards are much better for our well-being, and support the longevity and reduce any pains that we might have, as we'd seen before. Having monitor arms and stands to lift and adjust the height of the screens you're working on makes it more effective. Laptop and stand risers, again, so you're not hunched down in awkward positions sat on your chairs. And then thinking about wrist rests, foot rests, seat rests that make you more comfortable in the position you're sat in. As we mentioned before, we're spending more time in front of our screen while working from home, so it's important that we focus on all of these ergonomic upgrades. And as the image shows there, it's a lovely desktop setup. So what are the products that we should be using to outfit the home office? Where should that focus be? What are great solutions? Ergonomic mice and keyboards that you see there. We've got a ProFit Ergo range within Kensington. Having the audio sets, the headphones with mic, allow us to cut out background noise, allow us to confirm compatibility with the platforms we're using for conferences and webinars. It saves having connections via your laptop that the speakers are not reliable. The webcams and audio side of stuff is limited. So having correct video conferencing products is important. Again, then docking stations to allow us to connect additional monitors, so we can work effectively using one or two monitors that we work on, connecting to your peripherals. And then having laptop risers like the SmartFit laptop riser that we can adjust to a perfect height for the user to reduce any eye strain and neck ache not locking in the right position. So these are the ideal solutions for outfitting the home office in detail, a perfect solution. Moving on, we find ourselves sometimes working in cramped and compact spaces. Not everybody has a designated spare room or office, and unfortunate for that. So some of us are working from dining room tables or kitchen tables. So that can be a game changer. So having solutions that will support productivity then and enhancing the experience you have with your laptop is also more important. So thinking about the workspace you're in, or people that that are working from dining room tables or kitchens, they are very small, they're very limited. So having a dual wireless compact keyboard as an example, it's very small, takes up less desktop space that you're working from. We have mice such as SureTrack mice that have track on glass sensors, so it doesn't matter what surface you're working on, that they will track and work, and it's more reliable than working on your pad on your laptop, so it improves speed and accuracy. Mobile docking stations, as I say, that a little bit more light, can connect your peripherals quickly and easily. Again, adjustable, easy risers to adjust the height of the laptop to suit you as a user. And then again, having those headphones and mics for that audio visual conferencing side of stuff for communications that you work on. Now, at this stage, what I'm going to do is pass back over to Rory to finish off and go through some of the other stages. So thank you. Okay, it seems like we've lost Rory's thread. So we'll go through, the challenges of working from home, right, and connectivity problems. So, working from home, we need to have a productivity checklist. So it's important to ensure, access to a second screen is possible. As we mentioned earlier, it's a very quick win for us. It improves over 40% productivity in terms of that boost. So that's really important. Providing docking stations, so people can easily connect to their new equipment, by having that connections to those peripherals is really important to improve that productivity, speed and accuracy as we work. Provide our remote workers with external input devices. Mice and keyboards, are important. They're more effective than the laptop alone. We know our keypad on our laptop's not easy to use. You're hunching over, as Rory mentioned earlier. The trackpad is not very accurate and also easy to use. So, having additional input products is more important and effective to improve that productivity. Making sure we conduct online desk assessments, ensure that people are comfortable in their workspace, in order to work productively, make sure they're happy, make sure they're healthy, and by doing this is a quick win for them. Send, the message to employees is valued, make sure, that they know that they're valued, make sure that we understand that their well-being is important, make sure that they're healthy. We're providing ergonomic products in order for them to be productive and supportive. And then finally, encourage employees to build a workspace that they enjoy and works for them. Let's try and duplicate what they've been used to in the office, where they feel comfortable, feel productive, feel they're going to meet their tasks. Allow remote teams to expense work tools. Can they go online from Amazon, buy some products to improve their setup, make them feel comfortable and expense it back? Or do you build out a work from home accessory standards list that they can pick from? So making IT procurement simple, picking from approved products that they can do within the organisation.
Thanks for that, James. Some reason my devices all stopped. So the joys of working from home, as you say. But thanks for taking that last one on. So yeah, we're coming towards the end of our subject now, really. So I guess everything that we've talked about across the past sort of half an hour or so. All talks to having a comprehensive work from home strategy and how it will allow you to make sure you're keeping your remote workers performing at their best and working like a pro. Just want to touch on something quickly before we go to the Q&A session. So we've got a couple of other webinars coming up. So same time next week we have a webinar around how we maximise remote worker wellbeing. So we talked a little bit about wellbeing today, but we've got a huge amount more on the topic, and I'll be joined next week by Lisa, who's our Kensington's ergonomic expert. She's got a wealth of experience in desk assessments and ergonomics, so she's gonna be joining me to talk through that topic, and she's a great person to bounce ideas off and ask questions about physical health and well-being, either at home or in the office. And then on 2nd of June, at the same time, 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. based on your time zone, we'll be talking about data protection and how remote employees can protect data from home. So, over the past few years, there's been a huge amount of new legislation and regulation around data protection. And one of the things we've seen is the standards of people protecting their data have slipped since moving from the office to home. So we'll be presenting some more information on the subject of how you as organizational leaders can help your teams who work remotely protect your organization's data. Okay, so with that, at that point, I'll open it up to some questions. If you guys would like to ask some questions, please unmute yourself and ask away. If you don't want to ask in the public forum, then there is the question box on the webinar portal. But there's also some information on the screen. So there's a landing page here, kensington.com/work-like-a-pro/productivity. On this landing page, you'll find a lot of information that we've talked about today. But there's also a link to download a free white paper and an infographic which crosses all three subject areas that we've kind of touched on today. So productivity, well-being, data protection, and also on those landing pages there's a chance to book a meeting with one of our salespeople to talk about our solutions in a bit more detail. Or you can fill in a form and ask for a bit of information. We'll get back to you. James also mentioned the doc selector. One of the core elements of our productivity portfolio is our docking station range. We've made it very easy for IT departments to find out the best docking station for their needs. So if you just type in kensington.com/doc selector, or just search Kensington doc selector in Google, then you'll come up with that doc selector, and you can basically put in the hardware that you're using, and it will recommend the right docking station for you. And again, the last point on there, that we have an inbox, so please feel free to email us, contact@kensington.com. We're happy to field any questions that you may have that either you forget to ask during today, or that or that may come to you at a later date. So yeah, if anybody does have any questions, please unmute or submit a question. We have had one question in, which I can answer. So this is for organisations based in the UK. The UK government has announced the super deduction scheme in their March budget. How many organisations knows they do qualify for the scheme when they buy new office furniture or equipment? Can you please shed some light on that? It's a really nice point. So this new scheme that the government introduced is all about basically investing in equipment and infrastructure for businesses in the UK. So a little bit more information about it. So areas of tax deductible equipment that qualify for this scheme include solar panels, computer equipment and servers, of which a lot of the stuff that we've talked about today will be included. Tractors, lorries and vans, ladders, drills and cranes, office chairs and desks, and accompanying accessories that we speak about in our next week's webinar for wellbeing, plus other things like electric vehicle charge points, refrigeration units, compressors and foundry equipment. Those are all listed as areas that the UK government will allow sort of tax relief on when you're investing as a company. So the example they give is a company incurring £1 million of qualifying expenditure decides to claim the super deduction. Spending £1 million in these investments will mean that the company can deduct 1.3 million in its taxable profits. So it'll be able to deduct 130% of the initial investment from its taxable profits. Deducting the 1.3 million from the taxable profits will save the company up to 19% of that, or 247,000 on its corporation tax bill. So it's a really nice point. So thanks. I can't see who sent that one in, but thanks for sending that in. So if you are based in the UK and a UK business, please do consider that when you're investing in equipment. And yeah, we've got Ed in our public sector team that can help with any questions about that. So please drop an email to contact@kensington.com and we'll put you in touch with Ed. We have another question. Bear with me. So it's just someone saying, hi, Rory and James, hope you're well, looking forward to this presentation. So thank you to whoever sent that on. What else have we got? Bear with me. Are you hearing or anticipate legislation requiring corporations to address wellness standards for remote workers, similar to GDPR for data security in the EU? We haven't heard of this. I certainly haven't. I don't know if anyone else in our team has, but it would make sense. I think that there's lots of when we did our survey, we found a huge amount of information about organisations that found that the remote workers were suffering from not only from a physical well-being, but from a mental well-being as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if there was some sort of guidance, at least, or legislation coming from European governments on that. Oh, it was Karim who submitted the question about the super deduction. So thank you for that, Karim. We've had Sally say thank you for the presentation. She just thought it was very informative. So thank you for joining, Sally. That's all I can see at the moment. So yeah, if anyone else has any questions, please let us know. If not, then we'll leave it there and give you 20 minutes of your day back. Okay, I think we're good. Well, thank you all for joining today. Do remember we've got those webinars, the next couple of webinars next week and the week after on wellbeing and data protection, respectively. And as I said, please make sure you're, if you think of any questions or want any more information about our solutions, drop us an email at contact.kensington.com and we'll be more than happy to help. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks all. Thank you.
Bye-bye.